Hello and welcome to another episode of SHU Unsolved, the show where yours truly presents a cold case for which my panel will discuss. This week we're going to tackle the Zodiac Killer, which is a very popular cold case because it's been tackled in both movies and TV alike. So let's go to my panel for some initial thoughts. What are you guys thinking about this?
Well, I'm pretty sure it was Jake Gyllenhaal, right? That's all I've got.
Mickey, what about you?
I know nothing about the Zodiac Killer. I know he killed some people. I know we do not know where he is. I think it was in California, but that could have been some other serial killer. This stuff never really was a documentary I watched, so I'm ready to learn.
Okay, so let's get into it. So this did happen in California in 1968. There are many copycats, but we're going to stick to the 5 people and 2 wounded, right in the years of 1968 and 1969. So we're going to talk about first.
There were 5 Zodiac killers?
Well, no, 5 victims. 5 killed victims, 2 wounded, and managed to survive the ordeal. Those lucky people. But let's get started to talk about some of our victims. So our first victim was Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday. They were both found dead on spot on the lake at Lake Herman Road, which was called Lover's Lane in Benicia, California. They were apparently on a first date, but they've been seeing each other, so this was like their official first date. Yes. Yes, it was.
I've had some bad first dates. That tops them.
Yes. So they were both found dead, and even though they've been seeing each other for like 2 weeks, this was like the official first date. Like they actually started courting each other. Betty Lou died of 5 gunshot wounds to the head, and David died of a gunshot wound to his head. So there was 1 witness, and there were shell casings. And then when they first thought, okay, this murder happened, they allegedly thought, oh, this could be a drug deal gone wrong, because they thought Faraday had allegedly been involved with a drug dealer, mostly pot, because this was the 1960s when there were the hippies. But later it was ruled out that they were not involved in any illegal drug activity. So that was a lovely first date for those 2 people.
It's always.
I don't think many Betty Lou's were getting arrested. I think Betty Lou's a pretty straight-laced person usually. Might have starred in the Golden Girls at one point, has she not died?
Probably.
Betty Lou goes dark.
Yeah. So the next murder actually happened 7 months later on America's birthday, 4th of July, 1969, in Blue Springs Rock Park in Vallejo, California, where Darlene Farine would died of multiple gunshot wounds, while her male friend Michael Magoon survived, sustaining injuries to his neck, jaw, and leg. And Michael was able to give a first-person account of what had happened because he survived.
Ooh, let's get into it. What happened?
He said.
What happened?
Okay, so he told police that him and Darlene were sitting in the car. They pulled into a parking lot. They were watching the fireworks, having a time of their lives, as young people did in the 1960s. And a few minutes later, they saw another car pull into the parking lot, but they thought not much of it because it drove away. And then a second later, the car came back. And the driver showed a bright light into the direction of the car, which made them believe that it was the police. I don't know. But then the driver came to the passenger side of the car, and there was a gun. And he pointed the gun at Darlene and Michael and shot multiple times and then walked away, but then returned to the car when he heard that Michael was still alive to try and finish the job because Michael cried out in pain. They said that the shooter actually made a was the one who called in the murder to the Vallejo Police Department just blocks away from it, saying that I want to report a murder. You will find them 1 mile east of Columbus Parkway. You will find these kids in a brown car. They were shot with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye.
What? Why would you? Okay, so he wants to get caught. That's strange. So did Michael got shot too, and he just was able to be fine?
Yeah, apparently where he was shot, it was
I'm
just
picking up
safer.
on. The Zodiac Killer is not good at firing guns at his targets. Betty Lou took 5 shots. Betty Lou was either the strongest Betty Lou ever and needed to be tranquilized like a rhino. And then this Michael guy, he tried twice to kill him and failed both times.
But also, he's right by the window. How do you miss if you're right by? No, he's a killer, so he does suck to begin with. But he's just you're bad at your job, man. You're bad at your job.
Yes. So
he's a rookie at this point.
Yes. definitely rookie. But right in the middle of this, I'm going to stop talking about the victims for just a little bit, because this is when the famous Zodiac ciphers come into the picture. Because 26 days after that, on August 1st, 1969, letters arrived to the San Francisco Chronicle, the Vallejo Times, and the San Francisco Examiner. They detailed a letter that detailed the two murders, as well as the famous Zodiac cipher that would, if solved, would lead to the identity of the killer. And these would demand that the cipher be published and the letter be published in the front Times of the paper, or the killer would strike again. And the people, both amateurs and experts, tried to decode the cipher. None were successful. And then authorities began to doubt the legitimacy of these letters and the ciphers, because definitely they probably think, oh, this is a crazy person trying to get in on the murder. Another letter was received where the killer contained more details about those murders and taking issue with news reports that were detailing the crimes. And it included the symbol that's synonymous with the Zodiac Killer, which was the circle with the cross in it.
All right, this guy's cool. He might be bad at killing people, but I love a good riddle, so it works for me. I'm in.
I'm confused. Why is he Zodiac? Was the riddle come out to be like, I'm a Scorpio?
I don't know.
Bro, no, you know that's such a Gemini. You know a Gemini is a Zodiac Killer. Are you kidding, Mickey?
What's his moon rising? That's what I need to know.
Yeah, so, but these were just started the big hysteria, which now it's been seen in all the media. And then, so for our next murder, which happened on September 27th, 1969, while picnicking on the shores of Lake Berryessa in Napa Valley, wine country, college students Cecilia Shepard and Brian Hartnell were stabbed multiple times. Cecilia died from the attack, while Brian survived, another survivor. And he gave the investigators great detail to what the Zodiac could look like. And he said that the killer wore all black with a square-shaped executioner-style hood, with the white Zodiac symbol on his chest. And he said that the killer made Brian and Cecilia tie each other up, and then he stabbed them, stabbing Cecilia 8 times and Brian 10. And the killer also wrote the symbol on Brian's car, as well as the dates of the last 2 murders. And then he wrote September 69, 6:30 by knife, indicating the time, date, and method of the attack. And there are actual pictures.
He gave up on the guns. Respect that.
He was not good with the guns, but he's no better with the knife. Brian lived.
I don't. How is it that in all 3 of these he's managed to kill all the women? I think there's some intent behind that one.
Yeah.
There's some
What about the fact that it's all dates? He's only going after couples.
Maybe he just got his heart broken, guys. Maybe
I think so. I think he's going through something. He needs a real sad country song, and we could have avoided all of this.
Oh, you're gonna like the next one, because the next one was not even a date. It wasn't even.
I have a theory as of right now. Brian is the Zodiac Killer.
Brian,
I think it's because how do you tie each other up? Once one of you is tied up, how are you going to tie up the other one? His story's not checking out. Either that, or after it's been transferred through like 18 people at this point, probably his story doesn't check out because of that. But if this is true, that they had to tie each other up, how is Brian tying up
It was, I think, Cecilia
girlfriend
first, then I think the Zodiac Killer tied, so she tied Brian up, and then the Zodiac Killer tied up Cecilia, which some people think could have led to
I think the Zodiac Killer tied them both up, because the Zodiac Killer was Brian, which is why he survived.
Well,
he stabbed himself 10 times.
Yeah,
it's called commitment.
Well, to move on.
He wanted the Oscar.
Well, to move on, the last recorded actual canon Zodiac Killer was in the San Francisco neighborhood of Presidio Heights in the night of October 11th, 1969. Instead of 2 people being murdered, it was 1. And his name was Paul Stein, and he was just a taxi driver in the area. And
it has only been 1 person for the last few. Yes. Everybody else has been attempted murdered, but he is not murdered.
This is purposeful.
What's he batting at this point? Like 300? He's not really doing too great at the whole killing part of the Zodiac Killer.
But Paul picked up the killer and was directed to drive to the intersection of Washington and Maple Street. And the car was actually found a block away from the intended destination. With Paul in there, the body of Paul, the cause of death was a gunshot to the head. And Paul Stein's murder was not actually considered to be connected to the other Zodiac killings until on October 13th, 1969, when an envelope was sent to police and authorities with a scrap containing the blood of Paul Stein from his shirt and a letter to prove to authorities that they were mistaken and that it was in fact the Zodiac Killer.
Oh my
So
God.
this date also, little known fact, because Paul had to pick up the Zodiac Killer and then drive him to a specific address, was the inspiration for Uber and Lyft. Somebody read it in the paper and was like, this gives me an idea.
Yeah, I have an idea that will
We
be
do all,
so
all
good
this, leave out
30
the killing
years
part.
later.
So the Zodiac Killer also just was offended that they couldn't figure out that, oh, this is the serial killer doing the killing again. So he had to
Yes.
come back and take claim.
Yeah, and taunt authorities to be like, hey, it's your boy.
I don't know. I
This
don't
is
know
why
about
he has to
that.
sign the car with a knife.
So he sent the I guess the letter for one killing, right?
Yes.
And now after he's gotten away with a few of them, but he also did carve into the car, like I did all these other things.
Yeah.
So okay. I thought originally it was just someone trying to make up for lost time and just saying, yeah, that was the other guy. But maybe it could be the same person.
Yes. So there are other killings in the later past years to be considered Zodiac-related killings, but they're now considered copycat killers because for the sake of we're going to only see the ones that I mentioned to the actual murders as canon. So now let's actually get into some suspects, shall we?
Yeah.
So our first suspect is Arthur Lee Allen. He's considered the top suspect in a book by Robert Graysmith, which was one of the books that he wrote on the Zodiac which the basis of David Fincher's movie The Zodiac. And he said that Allen was questioned by police both in 1969 and 1971 after a friend told authorities that Allen had secured a flashlight to a firearm and talked about wanting to kill people. And he wore the same watch as the Zodiac, owned the same gun as the Zodiac that were used for the murder, so it was the 9mm Luger. And he told police that the bloody knives that he had in possession were for killing chickens.
Yep. I don't have to hear anything else. It was that guy. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yep.
I think
How do we
we
know that
did
he has
it.
the same
We
watch?
did it, guys. We solved the unsolvable mystery. Woo!
They also said that he was also less than honorably discharged from the Navy and fired from a school teaching job for sexual misconduct allegations. And so they believe that he was actually ambidextrous, which would disguise his handwriting, and that Allen was also investigated by the police in 1991 again after an informant from the police said that Allen bragged to him about killing a cab driver. And so, yeah, and they even said that one of the survivors, Michael Magda from the Spring Rocks, actually identified him as the killer, said that, hey, he's the one. But the thing that there was ruled out by multiple things. So first was DNA evidence did not match. And then after 2 home searches, and police took samples of the handwriting, it did not match to the Zodiac Killers. And Allen died in 1992, so he can't be brought to justice anymore because he's dead.
How do we know that it's his watch? Was this, I'm going to go Brian, because I remember Brian. He's the guy who lived in the car. Did he just not pay attention to the face? Was like, you know what? That's a
He
Rolex.
said they wore the same watch. Like someone saw the type of watch that he's wearing and they're like, oh, it matched. 2 and 2 make a whole. Like that sort of thing.
Was this the time period where swatches were popular?
I don't know. It was 1969.
Was he using a swatch who was just able to like trade it with his friends at the cafeteria the next day?
Who knows?
Here's some evidence to a crime. Have fun with that.
Yep. Yeah. So now
I don't get how he was never just like, so he was brought in and he was like, I want to kill people. Like why didn't he get locked up there? Like how was he free for like 30 more years? That doesn't make any sense.
Policing is very different from 1969 to 2021. Very vastly different. We have a lot more technology, but we also have more suspects to go through. So we have Earl J. Best Jr., which his son, named Gary Stewart, said that he believes that his father was the Zodiac Killer. And he wrote in a book in 2014 that he said that composite sketches looked like the Zodiac Killer because there's actual composite sketches of what he could possibly look at like without the hood and all the clothes. And he said that Best did serve time in jail for raping his biological mother. And he's interested in ciphers, knew a Satanist, and a member of the Manson family cult. He claimed that he found Best's initials in the cipher, and a document examiner said that the handwriting for the Zodiac Killer matches Best's handwriting on his marriage certificate. But the fingerprints did not match because there's apparently a visible scar in Best's fingerprint. And there was one in the cab that matches Paul Stein, but it's only when it's reversed, like flipped over, that it would match the fingerprint found. And also they said that the way that Stewart used to crack the cipher was quote unquote questionable. And the handwriting to the marriage certificate did not match because it was written by a magistrate, not Best. And Best died in 1984. So yet again, justice cannot be served.
So this guy was more, he had similar hobbies as the killer. So it could be him. But the scar thing throws me off.
Yeah, that's something that throws me off too.
It matches, but it doesn't match, but it matches.
Yeah, they said that it's like something to do with flipping it because we all know that we have a very individual like fingerprint, but it's like when you flip it, it matches, but when it doesn't, it's like not in the right position, doesn't actually match the fingerprint that they found, which I'm very surprised that they were able to collect fingerprints in 1969, but I guess they had pretty good fingerprinting technology.
But so the fingerprint didn't match, but just the scar on his finger did?
Yeah, it just the scar matched. So it wasn't the correct fingerprint, just a scar.
My guess is that one of those hobbies he had, which is not a very favorable hobby, like hanging out with Charles Manson, it's probably like an initiation scar. And he's probably good friends with the Zodiac Killer, but not the Zodiac Killer.
Yes.
Although, shout out to his kid for turning his dad real quick.
Yeah.
He didn't even have compelling evidence. He just had some speculation. He was like, my dad is the Zodiac Killer. Welcome to career day.
He did have like a little bit of bad blood because he did sort of try to rape his mom.
Yeah. That's
not good.
My dad's bad dude, and he's kind of the worst. He probably is a killer because he's the worst. That works for me. That tracks. I'm with him.
You think somebody just one day was like, who could possibly do such horrendous things to these people? And you heard that he's like, my father would definitely do these things.
What a Thanksgiving.
I know a guy.
Yes. Yes, so our last subject that we're going to cover is named Donald Lee Bajoke, which according to the late Barry Essen murder survivor Brian, we're bringing Brian back, the hooded man that attacked him said that he escaped from prison in Montana. And researchers Kevin Robert Brooks has created a long circumstantial case against Bajoke, who was released from Dealer Lodge Penitentiary in Montana after serving 11 years of a life sentence for killing a sheriff's deputy. So he was already a very violent person. And according to Brooks, the fellow inmates of Bajoke said that he talked about killing people and to make them slaves in the afterlife. Very lovely, which the Zodiac Killer had mentioned in one of his letters. He was discharged from the military for mental health reasons, which Brooks alleged was a reason. For some reason, the markings would spell Zodiac is a veteran with 4F, which I researched that 4F is a military designation that states a person is physically, morally, or psychologically unfit for duty. So they definitely knew something was up. And they said that the alleged cross symbol that's synonymous with the Zodiac Killer was inspired by a helicopter landing pad from Fort Ord in California, which Bajoke was stationed at. So he was ruled out because fingerprints did not match, I guess. And a park ranger claimed that Hartnell said that the killer escaped prison in Colorado, not Montana. And Bajoke was not out of prison out during the other earlier murders and was released just 3 days before the first murder, which researchers believe would be difficult for him to actually travel that far from Montana to California to commit these murders. And yet again, we have a dead person. Bajoke died in 1993. So we can't get any more evidence from him.
I think this one makes a lot of sense for at least one of the murders. I think that for whatever reason, we have these 5 that we believe are all connected, but this guy checked way too many boxes for being, I guess, the person that wrote all those letters. He may have been that person, the quote unquote Zodiac Killer, but if the actual murderer might not have been him, but the guy that built up the lore could have most definitely been this guy.
Maybe he was just the Zodiac Killer secretary, did all the paperwork for him.
Maybe they're all the Zodiac Killer.
I think this guy is the inspiration for the Bob Marley song that goes, "I shot the sheriff, but I did not kill the deputy." Maybe he shot a sheriff at one point, didn't kill the sheriff's deputy, and it's just been all downhill for him. And I mean, why would you kill somebody and then be like, by the way, I escaped prison in Montana. I don't want you confusing this with Colorado. I was a Montana felon. That seems like a very specific detail that if you don't just fake that, that's a great way to throw somebody off your scent. But if this guy escaped or was convicted in Colorado, I think of the 3, this is the guy I suspect the least.
If anybody ever asks, I was in Montana.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now that we finished our suspects, I'm going to ask you guys just a quick question or two. So there have been many wild conspiracy theories to identify who the Zodiac Killer is, from it being Senator Ted Cruz to the Unabomber, or to be part of the Manson family. So why do you think the Zodiac Killer is still a current theory topic that we talk about today, and maybe why it's constantly tackled in TV and movies?
Well, first, because everyone just loves a good riddle. Like, first, with him just getting away with it all and being bold enough that every single time he killed someone, he told someone and still got away with it. That's an amazing, well, it's not an amazing story because people died, but it's amazing to talk about and captivating because we want to figure this thing out. But obviously, it's not as simple as we think. And we wish fingerprints worked better in 1969, but alas, it was 1969. We can get a person on the moon, but we can't get fingerprints to work. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh man, this was happening during the moon landing. I didn't even put that together. Wow. That blew my mind more than anything else during this.
Moon landing.
Maybe he was like
Zodiac.
stabbing somebody during the moon landing.
Yes, that's what he did. He killed He's not from Montana. He's from the moon. That's what he
That's
said.
why he missed all those
Aliens.
shots. He had the shot lined up, saw the moon landing, and was like distracted. He's like, "Whoa, are you seeing this?"
Yeah, so I'm going to ask a question about the cipher. What do you think about the Zodiac cipher? There has been news that people in France have been cracking it open. Why does this still puzzle people today? Why are people like, I am going to find out who this person is by reading this very tough coded message?
I mean, my grandma loves to do the jumble in the back of the newspaper every day. I think it's just a hobby for some people. Gets their mind working, keeps them young. And I mean, at the end of the day, if you can do the jumble and figure out who killed a bunch of people, there's probably a reward for that. My guess is there's a couple $1 million waiting for you if you can find the Zodiac Killer after all these years.
I want to know what the guy said. That's all. We just want to figure it out. I don't think it will actually lead to figuring out who did all these murders. Just want to know what gibberish was in the paper today. That's all we want to know.
Okay, and so my final question is, who do you think is the Zodiac Killer out of my 3 suspects? And do you think we'll ever find out truly who this person is?
It's Brian.
Bringing back Brian.
No, he's not a suspect, but it's Brian. I don't remember their names, but the second guy whose son turned him in, I don't know how you flip your scar or something, but if that's the only thing not lining up,
Earl Van
I'm
Best
going with
Jr.
that guy.
That
I
was
guess
the one.
to somebody just messed up the fingerprint.
I agree. I'm with the second guy. The third guy was locked up for way too many of these for it to be him. He's from Montana, Colorado. I don't know. I'm going with the second guy because the flip fingerprint, that doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't make sense, and everything else kind of checks out.
Yeah, so
It could be Ted Cruz.
It very much could be Ted Cruz. I know
It could be Ted Cruz.
Wasn't born yet or something like that, or maybe he was like 5, but Man, I don't know.
He was a
You put it
prodigy.
Side by side.
I actually read something
Mozart played
about the
the piano.
Unabomber. They said that, oh, the Unabomber could possibly do it because this was before he started sending the packages and he's a very violent person, yada, yada, yada. But that's a weird thing about this is that it's an unsolved case. So people are going to have these wild conspiracy theories. So this case is considered to be closed, yet it's waiting to be solved, but it may never be. But I think people will try and continue to figure out who this killer is because it is such a captivating case. We've had David Fincher's take on the whole thing. We've had in American Horror Story Cult, they had a whole episode that had it in there. But until that day comes, this case will remain unsolved.
It was Brian. It was Brian.
What does this have to do with the zodiac signs?
That's in the cipher, man.
It was in the cipher. It says like zodiac signs. Maybe somebody just read it in the zodiac. Like, what does your sign say today? Part of the paper. Like, you're gonna get shot 5 times. Look out.
He read like the moon signs. He's like, I'm a Taurus today. I feel like murdering these people, especially couples.
Yeah, makes sense.
I mean,
Brian, this crazy guy.